Welcome to another episode of the Diary of a Business Owner that I'm currently putting together as I try to document what's going on with my business and what I'm trying to do with the business that I recently bought. This was back in January of this year. I bought a carpet and steam cleaning business in the Houston area, and so far things have been all right, with some hiccups, of course, that come with running a business. And then I'm also moving towards trying to grow the thing. So to that, in this entry, we'll call it, to the diary, I want to talk about what I've been doing to try and build a sales team and some of the interviews I've gone through and kind of what I'm thinking of there, and some of the insights, because I actually learned a thing or two on at least one of these interviews. And kind of in going through interviews, it's a great sign if you actually learn something from the person you're interviewing. So kind of get into some of those lessons, but just kind of recap what's been going on with the business. We're starting to pick up, or at least the average ticket size is kind of growing as we enter the spring cleaning season. That is a real thing, apparently. People do a lot of spring cleaning, and the average ticket size is going up, which is great, which should translate to significantly more profitable months up ahead as we kind of move into the busier season. The busy seasons of the year tend to be around this time of year, so probably April and May, probably, and then the holidays as well. So November, December tend to be really big as well. People get their houses ready for company coming over, so they get a lot of cleaning done. So always have those to look forward to, I suppose. But better make hay while the sun shines, I guess, as they like to say. But in the meantime, I'm really trying to grow this business, since right now we just got two full-time technicians, the manager, and then myself. So it's just four of us. And that's doing about a $300,000 per year pace, at least historically. I'm only a couple months in, and we're definitely below that pace right now. But I came in January and February, which are just normally pretty slow months. So I think we're on pace for more like 150 to less than $200,000 if we just maintained our current pace. But that pace is quickly ramping up as we're getting through March. So I would expect to be, if we did nothing else, we'd probably maintain that $300,000 clip. But if we start making some moves towards building out the team, which is the current focus, we should be able to get that up quite a bit. And so far, just now, I guess, bringing it to the kind of sales hiring process, I've put out a bunch of listings over the past few weeks, and I actually put a bunch out today as of the filming of this stream. And I'm just trying to get a bunch of different salespeople. And one thing, kind of to get to the interview, where I really felt like I learned quite a bit, or at least it changed my perspective in a way that made a lot of sense. When I first was making these sales listings, kind of mentioned it on I think the previous stream, I just was looking for someone who would do kind of every aspect of sales. So door knocking, calling our former customers, cold calling. So kind of both a mixture of cold and warm leads, which would probably work fine. But the tricky part is finding people for that, because it's not a very focused role necessarily. And that would be split between like commercial and residential. So then you're dealing with very different customer types as well, potentially. So that's kind of how I started it. And I talked with the candidate who was more experienced with sales and had done this sort of thing before, and framed it in a way where he's like, well, I don't really want to do door knocking, but I'd be very interested in doing closings, or kind of coming into upsell existing leads or existing customers. Which made a lot of sense, because if you have someone who's really, really talented at sales, you don't necessarily want them to be, just slogging along, going through a bunch of uninterested leads. Door knocking, it's a fine thing, but it's a little bit difficult. So I wanted to try and have them go. So anyways, he was saying that rather than doing that sort of thing, you'd have a team of canvassers ahead of him, which would be, door knockers, people doing cold calls, and he'd come in to close. I'm like, that actually makes quite a bit of sense. You have someone who just focuses on the already warm leads, and then you have a bunch of other people bringing in the cold leads, which makes some sense. And that's kind of the model that we have right now, only it's with ads. You have ads bringing in the kind of cold, the lukewarm leads, and then we work those by getting them on the schedule, upselling them after that once they're on the schedule, and that sort of thing. And the upsells here might be things like Scotch guard and odor enzyme treatments, things that can kind of make the cleaning last a bit longer, if you will, and that it'll prevent stains in the future. So that's an easy upsell to do, since it's a good time to do it right after you get your carpets cleaned or your tile cleaned. When it comes to tile as well, we do tile sealing as well, and color guard sort of things. So those are great upsells, and they can increase the ticket size quite a bit, up from maybe a $200 ticket up to $300-400, depending on how much they get. So that's very significant when we're talking about a bunch of deals or a bunch of jobs per week. So if you get someone who's just on upselling rather than relying on our technicians to do that, they do a fine job with it, but you'd rather have them in there cleaning and maybe doing a little bit of upselling here and there. But if you get someone who's just dedicated on working the relationship towards building that rapport with the customer and also checking in with the customer periodically, after they've already been a customer and we've served them once, that'd be great to have. So the big shift that I made, or maybe it's a minor shift depending on on where you're coming from, but my perspective has gone from, okay, we'll just collect three general salespeople, to maybe we have specialized salespeople. We have a more experienced closer, someone who's working our existing customer base, people who are already warm, and having just someone focus on that, and maybe coming in for more complicated or just bigger deals that other people bring in. That could be one role. You have another that's just doing commercial outreach. You have others that are just doing residential outreach, so more your typical door knocking campaigns, I would imagine. So having a team like that, where you have maybe a couple people in each sort of segment, I think it could be a really powerful way to build a sales team. And then you're pulling on multiple talents, and then obviously we'll all have experiences they can share with each other, and that could be a nice way to structure it. And that's really what I'm kind of going for now, trying to build out a more specialized sales team, even while we're pretty small. And it got me thinking more about kind of a year from now, what sort of structure is the business going to have? How many people are we really looking at? And I've actually talked with a few competitors in the same space in the Houston area, and learning some of their kind of tools of the trade and things that they've done. One I actually talked to had that sort of closer model where they would get a job booked, and once a job was booked, they'd immediately send in another person, or send in their kind of go-to salesperson to go and upsell the job. A customer might call for what would be $150 carpet cleaning job. And rather than just calling it a day right there, you'd be like, hey, can I get someone out there right now to measure, make sure you're getting the best price. And then while they're there, they measure, get the best price for carpet cleaning. But now you have someone there who's built rapport with that customer. It can be like, hey, we also do duct cleaning. We don't do that yet, but this company did. Or, hey, we can also do your tile over there. Or did you know we do furniture as well? And you're already with a very warm lead, someone who's going to be your customer, and you're able to offer more value, offer more services. And if you can find a way to potentially spread out if it's a really big job, maybe it's $1,000 job. If you start getting a bunch of elements there, one thing that other companies have done is they offer they'll offer financing where you pay over 12 months or something. And a lot of the servicing apps allow you to do that. So we use House Call Pro, and they have a feature like that, to where you can kind of spread it out, and rather than forcing someone to fork over $1,000 right there, they could spread it out over 12 months for 0%. You pay some fee on it, but that'd be a way to potentially get some serious upsells for like a kind of whole house ordeal. So that's kind of one thing I've noticed with a few competitors. They all kind of do something like that. And that also got me thinking about, okay, what other upsells do I really want to get to in the future? Duct cleaning is a very common one that we do not offer yet. That seems like it would be a good add-on. However, you do need quite a bit of extra equipment for that. You need a whole nother truck. So that's a bit annoying, I guess. But if you can double the size of every ticket, that could easily be well worth it. So that would be one thing. And then also power washing, I think, could be a really good one too. Needs a little bit less intense equipment, but also needs its own equipment. And that's another potential upsell to add. So I think that's kind of where I'd like to get to, ideally within a year. It kind of depends on where demand is and how fast our team's growing, but that would be a great ability to have would be offering not only carpet and tile cleaning and all the things we're already offering, but also duct cleaning and power washing, something to just get the whole house nice and clean for whatever you want to do. Maybe it's just your annual cleaning that we would want them to be on. And then we could offer something like a membership. I think that could be a really nice thing to do, where you get a discount on that annual like whole house cleaning if you pay a monthly fee or something. That could be a further down the line. I don't think it makes a lot of sense right now given our ticket size, but as the ticket sizes grow and we offer more services, I think that could be a nice sort of like a deluxe membership where you're able to get all the services for a discount if you do them in bulk. So that I think that's kind of the longer term thing to shoot for. So now working backwards from there, how do you get there? I think if we had a model like that, there shouldn't be an issue of getting up to $1 million in revenue on that, because there are competitors in the space doing more than that with that sort of model. Some competitors up in the multi-millions, up to 3 million doing those general services. So if we call that the cap, but who says that's the only cap? You could always expand your area or offer more services. But let's say it gets up to, let's say it gets, the target be 1 to 1.5 million in revenue. Well, from there, I'd probably need, we'll call it 4 or 5 technicians, maybe 4 full-time or 4 more experienced technicians, and then like a junior technician. You'd probably need to have 3 or 4, we'll call them door knockers, canvassers, cold callers, and then a closer, maybe a separate commercial person as well. So we'll call it 5 or 6 salespeople. You'd want an office admin. Right now we have a third party sort of customer service that does well, but it'd be nice to have someone totally in-house who could really work very closely with the general manager, who would be the other person working on this. And that would be a nice team structure to have. And then that sales engine could just keep going because we'd have a bunch of talent on it. And that could be the way to blow past $1 million or whatever the plateau otherwise would be if you didn't have a sales team. But obviously that's not a super concrete number, but I think having at least some sort of direction to head towards, and a reasonable direction, because it's what other companies are doing in a similar space, in slightly different areas, but within the same Houston area. It's a nice thing to know that what's possible. And then if we can execute well, which we typically execute our fulfillment well, it's just a matter of getting the demand there. And that's kind of what this big focus is for the next year. So now I have been interviewing salespeople. I mentioned that one where I really took away that perspective, really clarified some things with that. So that was great. And it has been a bit tough just because, some people, I very clearly state it's a commission-based role, but, if people don't read the job description, they're just mass applying. I call them for like a phone screener. They're like, oh, what are the hours and what's the base salary? I'm like, okay, well, this probably isn't going to work very well. But that's why you do a phone screen, I guess, right? But it'd be, but anyways, just trying to work through all the applicants. I've gotten a few promising ones, one very promising one that we're moving forward with. We'll see what happens there. But that is kind of priority number one right now, is getting that sales team built out, because that will be the sort of, I don't want to call it the foundation, but it's definitely going to be the catalyst for growth, because that's the demand side of the business. The supply side of the business, which is being able to serve and actually fulfill orders, is doing fine. We have the equipment. We'd like to have some more later for other jobs, like I mentioned, with ducts cleaning and power washing eventually. But for now, for carpet and tile cleaning, we have the equipment to do it. We have capacity. We have time. We don't need more technicians at the moment, given our current demand. So it makes sense to focus on the demand till we fill up that supply. Then we could start adding more supply, if that makes sense. It's kind of the dynamic that's going on. We've talked about that in the past. So that's the current status of things right now. We're definitely moving in a positive direction with that. So I'm excited about that. And who knows, by next episode, we might have a new salesperson on the team, which would be really exciting. And then we can kind of get the ball rolling, going through some of our old contacts, old database right now from customers maybe who haven't ordered anything in the last 12 plus months, who could really use a good carpet or steam cleaning or tile cleaning, and get someone out there who's used our service before, is familiar, probably was pretty happy because we have great ratings. So we typically do a nice job. We have hiccups, of course, but most people are very satisfied. So it's just a matter of getting in front of them again, offering our services, and they'll certainly have a higher likelihood of saying yes if they've used us before and we're not strangers. So that would be probably the first priority for the first salesperson, be working that existing database. And then one thing that the current manager and I are doing is, uh, in the meantime, we've been pitching some larger commercial potential customers. So we've actually been calling up hotels, for example, and many businesses actually. We're just calling them up during business hours, asking if we could speak with a manager. Sometimes we get a yes. Oftentimes we get a yes, actually, and we just at least can offer our services out there, put our name out there, and occasionally we can get a bid. So the more of that we can do, the better. And that's where a commercial salesperson could be super helpful too. Or if we had a talented closer who could come help us actually close the deals. I like to think I'm okay at selling, but I'm just not that experienced with in-person sales. It's a sometimes an awkward sort of feeling, just pitching your services and asking for money. It's a bit weird sometimes, but if you're confident in your product, it's not too difficult. At least I've found. So it's not, it won't be, I'm seeing comments here in the live chat. It's not going to be easy. Yeah, I'm not suggesting that would be easy. The challenging part is finding the talent, of course. And then from there, it's keeping a close eye on things and making sure that you're still taking positive steps each day. It's hard to focus on the result. You just have to focus on the action items. So that would be calling a certain number of people or door knocking a certain number of doors, whatever it is. It's just focusing on the action items, and that's all you can really do. And then it's just trying to get the conversion rates up to what seems like a reasonable level and going from there. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at there. I guess we'll go ahead and get into some questions here. Ask where am I located? So I'm in Houston right now. Business is kind of in the northern Houston area and into the suburbs. And I moved to Houston from Chicago back in August of last year. So I'm pretty new to the area and immediately got invested into it. I got a question here. Are you going to be taking anything out of the business like a salary, or will you reinvest all profits? I haven't taken any money out. I actually lost money in the first month because of all the setup fees. And I don't plan on taking anything out for quite some time. I'd rather just focus on reinvesting into being able to offer more services at least. So maybe that's a $20,000 duct cleaning rig on a truck. That's an investment right there. Obviously getting a nice cushion for hiring employees, because every new person is another obligation. So I'd want to make sure I had more cash the more people I bring on, even if they're all commission or most are commission. But I don't plan on taking money out of the business anytime soon. Thankfully, I'm not in a position where I need that. I'm still working full time as an attorney. So that's plenty to cover expenses. My wife's salary is plenty to cover expenses. So we're in a fine cash flow position. We do have quite a bit of debt, so I'd like to focus on getting that down. And one thing I am very strongly contemplating right now is selling off my stocks and also one of my real estate properties, just to free up some cash, have some more ability to invest in either another business, even a competitor, or just to have that cash to reinvest right into this business. So, or maybe it'd be kind of a combination. If you buy a competitor, you kind of merge the businesses together. That'd be a nice, I would think, fun project, fun in business terms. But that's kind of what that's what I'm thinking there. Obviously, eventually I'll take money out of the business, but right now, thankfully, not a need to. And really, just given the time of year it is, it's probably not a good idea to take a lot of money out until start making some more serious profits as things ramp up. So, yep, that is that. Thank you for the question. So, someone says I'm the next Mattress Mack. I don't know about that, but he's for those of you not from Houston, I'm technically not from Houston, so I've kind of recently bought into the lore of Mattress Mack. He's a very famous entrepreneur who actually isn't from Houston. I think he's from Georgia or something like that. He's from the deep South though, and he moved to Houston and started Gallery Furniture, which is a very large furniture chain here in the city, and he does a bunch of charitable work in the city, and he's very outspoken. He's a character for sure, and he has some good. I've watched some of his interviews before on YouTube and elsewhere, and he's definitely got a lot of wisdom. Very scrappy, kind of entrepreneurial guy, but yeah, it'd be cool to meet him one day if I ever have the opportunity. But um, I'm not selling furniture, so that's strike one. I guess I can't be Mattress Mack. So I appreciate the positive vibes. And speaking of Astros, someone asked if I'm going to any Astros games. I did go to the ALDS last fall. That was with the firm law firm tickets we had, so I snagged those, and that was a lot of fun. I can't say I'm an Astros fan given their recent history, but I am a big baseball fan, so we'll leave it at that. Question on why did I move to Houston? Well, the primary reason is my wife landed a job here. That was a nice opportunity, so we went for it. And then the law firm I worked for, or I still work for, has an office in Chicago. That's where I was working. But they also have one down here, so that was an easy switch for me there. And then there's all the other things with you have the growth tailwinds. Lots of people coming here, including from Chicago and elsewhere, Chicago, California, New York. The less than stellar performances from those cities recently. So a lot of people leaving those places to come for more affordable, growing, more jobs, those sorts of places. So you have the growth tailwinds, which is a positive. No state income tax is a nice bonus. Weather is significantly better, if you ask me, than Chicago, because even though it gets super hot here in the summer, I will take that over 0 degrees. So, you got all those things. The big negative is our family is up in Chicago, or almost everyone is up there. We'll see how much convincing we can do to bring people down here. But until we have kids, which will probably be in the coming years, or in the coming few years, that'll be when we have to make those heavy decisions. But right now we're just kind of pioneering down here, and so far it's been really nice. I've enjoyed it. My wife's definitely enjoyed her job, and there's been challenges, of course, making new friends, but that's kind of fun. So, yeah, but that's the general reason why. We'll call it jobs, and because it's central time zone, so we can zip back up to Chicago if we ever need to. We haven't done too much since Christmas time because it's very, very cold. So once it gets warm again, summertime Chicago is great. So we'll definitely be coming then pretty frequently. And then also to that, what do I think about Denver, Salt Lake City, or Houston? All I know is Denver is very expensive, but I don't know anything else. Salt Lake City, I don't know much about. But Houston, I gave you the lowdown there. Portfolio reveal? Well, you must be new to my channel because that's pretty much all I do here. It's lots of portfolio reveals. I do a whole net worth breakdown every month on the first, so I definitely would encourage you to check that out because I have like a spreadsheet there that shows everything, all my stock holdings, my debts, assets, gives you all the context you could possibly need really for my net worth situation. So take it for whatever you think it's worth. It's all out there. Just kind of documenting the whole process and kind of see you can see now when I talk about things, you might understand where I'm coming from if you can see where my net worth situation is. I also do a stock series every month on the 15th, so you can check that out too if you're curious. And then of course we got this series here and other content on the business and things I'm learning along the way. It's definitely been a challenge, but it's been a fun challenge, and it gets stressful at times, and of course it gets stressful at times, but it's fun trying to build something and building a team and putting all the pieces together and thinking about long-term planning and growth like that's the fun stuff. So or at least that I enjoy. So everyone's skill set is different, but that I definitely like the planning aspect and trying to coordinate teams and putting people in the right position is a fun challenge too. I don't know how good I am at it. I don't think I'm awful. So far, it's been okay. So just trying to improve that skill. I think that'll be very, very important long term and probably one of the most lucrative skills I could possibly learn, which is team management and putting people in the right place. I feel like I get this question every time, but you work in big law and still have time to create your own business. I will say I didn't create this one. I bought it. So that made it a little bit easier, kind of a jogging start. Um, but yeah, it's definitely a challenge. Um, it's a lot of time management struggles, we'll say. Sometimes I have to sacrifice things, but that's part of the reason one of the first hires I made was general managers to help me with that, because if I'm going to try to keep the salary, then I'm going to need help running the business if we're trying to move it up anywhere. Um, if I just wanted to coast, I suppose I could have chosen not to hire a manager and just run whatever I needed to run day to day. But it's nice having someone, just another person with their own experiences, focusing on it too. So um, that's a big reason why it's hiring people is leverage. It leverages your time back. In this case, I'm putting a lot of that time right back into the business, but a good chunk of that time is going towards my job, which is, you could call the safety net for now. Um, while we kind of work to grow this business in the meantime. But it is a good question. And it does raise the question of, like, how much time do you really need to run a business? And I guess it kind of depends, one, on who you've hired, how good you are at hiring, how comfortable you are with letting certain things, be handed to someone else. Uh, you could frankly, you could put an unlimited amount of time into a business and there'd still be things to do. It's because there's always something to improve. There's always something you can optimize. There's another thing you can offer. So there's always stuff you can add. Um, so the question is just putting your time towards the thing that is the most valuable, given each hour you're putting in. Uh, or given the decision you're making. But you also have to balance it with, you got to make sure you're sharp, you're rested enough, and all those important things too. Probably can't just be 100% work. Got to sleep, of course. So you got to sleep, take care of yourself in some way. Um, Thankfully, I have a supportive wife, so that's super helpful. I don't. It would probably be quite a bit harder if I didn't have a wife help me out, and if you give me the positive outlook on things. So I'm a very critical person, so that's pretty nice. And I have someone here saying, now, interesting. Now I'll be your loyal YouTube audience. I appreciate that. For anyone on YouTube, if you haven't subscribed, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes, either of this series or all my other videos as well. So I always appreciate the support. We just crossed 5,000 subscribers on YouTube, so that's exciting. And if you're watching from the other platforms this is streaming on, it's also streaming on Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter. And maybe I'll add more platforms in the future, including potentially a podcast version, but no promises there. So, um, uh, so yeah. With that said, I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. I'll try to come back with another episode. Maybe I'm optimistic we'll hire someone soon, and then maybe from there I'll be able to give a really solid update on a big new change in the business. But there's always going to be stuff to talk about. So, but next week, a week and a day from today, so 8 days from now, I'll be turning 26. So that'll be fun. I'll be on to another year. Only this year I'll be coming into it as a business owner, rather than this was a very momentous year, turning 25, moving to Houston, buying this business. It's been a lot of moving parts in the past year, and it's been good. So let's, with that said, thank you again, everyone, for tuning in. This was the 5th entry into the Diary of a Business Owner, and I appreciate all of your support. Again, like, comment, subscribe, all that great stuff. Otherwise, thanks for watching.